So today what we're doing, the final step is naming your project, right? And what I want you to think about is the role of the project is to have a name for the feeling of what the experience will be of bringing together the different parts of your life, okay? So we're building this vision of what will my life look like in 1 year, in 3 years, whatever you decided felt spacious when you really let yourself want, whether that is a business or it's a lifestyle or it's about having a family or it's about just feeling peace instead of feeling overwhelmed. Some of my previous projects, I'll put links to either podcast episodes or we'll start to share them under this video inside the Life Atelier. But for example, I had Project Croissant, and Project Croissant was just get me to France, right? Before that, there was Project Pastrana. That's probably one of the first ones, which was just about getting myself out of the situation that I found myself in, right? I'd moved to Normandy um, at the midpoint of when the pandemic was really bad. So I think it was in the June. Um, yeah, the pandemic had been going for I think 18 months. I'd done a year in this little medieval village with my partner at the time. It was lovely. It was very nice, but it was very lonely because Spain had closed the borders between the different provinces. So it was just us in a big house rattling around. And then we decided, or I decided, that it was very important to me to go to Normandy and to try to renovate my grandparents' cottage with no money, no experience, and no knowledge of if the internet worked. So I had this image in my head of me having a coffee in the garden, right? And so actually, that was the previous project. Um, you see, like, there are all these projects. You can see there are these like different stars that you're using to guide you along the way. None of them are the end point, right? They're just getting you to where you can then see the next star. Or mountain peaks. You might prefer to think of it as like the next mountain peak, okay? That you get to the top, you enjoy it, it feels good, you've done it. And then, of course, it's what do we want to do next, right? And so for me, I'd had that image of the having the coffee, the being in the garden. And once I had created that image and that snapshot, and I could feel like this is what it feels like, to be able to smell the dew on the grass in the garden, to be listening to bird song, to have that chill in the air, be holding my coffee cup, and just have that like peace of being in this space, of having my own home. That was then what I used as a reference point, which is something you're going to start to do, to ask what pieces of this life can I build now so that we're enjoying the life that we're in whilst we're also journeying towards the life that we want to build. So I didn't have a garden at the time. What I would do is I'd put my coffee in a takeaway cup and I'd go sit on the bench overlooking the valley, with grass around me in a really beautiful spot, right? It was beautiful anyway, but I wasn't appreciating it at the time because I'd been thinking about the next thing. And then when that all didn't work out, and I found myself alone with Rita on the edge of a forest with foxes screaming that sounded like women being murdered and the water like spewing out of all of the pipes in the house and no central heating. And still no money, but even less money because I'd spent it trying to build this house and then not being able to earn money because the internet kept breaking and kept not working. And really, I just knew I needed to get to safety to regroup, right? So it was about get back to a place where I can regroup. And it was very much like Project Gravitate, right? Get my center of gravity back in me, not on a partner, not on my clients, not on my family, not on other things. Really start to identify where is my center of gravity. So when we name the project, it brings together the most important things to us. We've practiced the skill of wanting so that we're not turning the volume down and saying like, oh, well, I guess I'll call it project side hustle because, I probably can't have a full business in a year or 3 years, right? None of that. If we notice that we're limiting it, Then we go back to creating that safety by creating space, and we go further into the future, or we change the conditions. Maybe we notice that we don't think we can have something, not because of time or not because of past experiences, but actually because of resources. So let's play, we win the lottery, right? What happens if I have all the resources? What happens if I win the lottery? The point of this is to get your brain into creative space and imagining, and then we name it. Now, the name of the project, we want it to have that encompassing all of those things, okay? And also to have a physical feel in our body. When I had Project Croissant, which was going from Spain, having done my healing, having worked out what I wanted, mostly, it was about getting back to France. I knew that I wanted to be in France at that point, okay? So I knew that at this stage of having done enough of these like big dramatic moves, I knew that I'd work it out when I got there. So I didn't really need to have anything more than that in the name. It was just about this image that I had of me going to the boulangerie in the sunshine, crispy cold morning, and getting a croissant and smelling it like that buttery smell. I don't even eat them now, right? I'm vegan. But it doesn't matter because I could feel it. I could feel that. I'd had that experience. I knew what it felt like to get there. And so that then helped to drive my decision making when I was thinking, okay, will this get me closer? Will this support Project Croissant or not? Okay. So you name your project. If you are on this, wherever you're seeing this video, I will be sharing other Life Atelier members' projects. We have got, I mean, they just fill me with just happiness and joy and motivation, because when people name these projects, I can feel them expanding and I can feel the impact that it also has on those around them when they start to refuse to settle and they start to say, I will create this, and I am not going to create it by struggling. I am going to create it with the Life Atelier method, which is decide on the name of our Life Atelier project from expansive wanting, then create our 3 life balance goals: mind, body, and impact, so that we know we're not going to be hustling because we're going to be actively rebalancing each day by having these 3 focuses. And then playing, being brave, and seeing what happens. Now, I stole that play, be brave, see what happens from a yoga video with Cordelia Simpson. But I tagged her so many times on Instagram when I first shared it that I thought I can't tag her again. She needs some space. Okay, but I just loved it because it is about keeping that option open of see what happens. Because sometimes when we limit, in fact, very often when we limit what we think can happen to avoid something bad happening, we're also limiting what can be good, right? When I started dating for the first time in my life, having been in a relationship for 15 years, I was approaching it with this, like, well, I'll protect myself, like, I'll have fun, but to make sure I don't get hurt. And then as I started having these experiences, connecting with these lovely men, right, but that weren't right for me, I realized that as well as creating that safety and that space for me to hurt when it didn't work out, I was at the same time increasing my capacity for it working out, for it being amazing, for having those conversations and those sparks and those connections that I hadn't thought were possible because I was busy like keeping my expectations in the safe zone, right? The same with my business. Okay. I did not even think it would be possible to build a business that looks like mine. Like, my business is, for a lot of people, crazy. I love it. It's unique to me, it's unique to my community. So when you start creating that space for let's see what happens, from play, from being brave, you are also opening up and setting yourself up for success with creating something that is uniquely joy bringing for you, and that you are uniquely positioned to create. Not because you're a special snowflake, right? But because you are a very specific combination of the human experience, and how you express that and how you reach out to and connect with others is also unique, right? Just because it is. So, again, as always, get coaching on this. If you're in the membership, if you're not in the membership, join the membership. And if this is useful for you and it's in a shareable spot, please share it, because this is the ripple effect.